Hey, good morning, everybody. It is Monday morning, February the 22nd, and what a difference a week makes, especially if you live in Texas. Quite a difference as we're waking up this morning than what we were facing last week. So thankful that we have made it through all of that, and people are getting their lives back together. Still praying for those, obviously, that have suffered immensely over the past week and dealing with the fallout of all that. But it's a good way for you to pray this week is to pray for those who are still trying to put the pieces back together from the winter storm that we had last week and get their lives back on track this week. But I wanted to come to you this morning and just start your week out with a devotion. Let me talk to you about something for just a minute, about walking in freedom, living in freedom, how to maintain that walk in freedom. I think sometimes if we're not careful, one of the ways that we lose freedom and end up back in bondage is we start focusing on particulars rather than principles. Well, what are you talking about, Larry? Well, let me give you an example. The people that Jesus became the most upset with were the people who put their particulars over the principles. In fact, Matthew chapter 23, verse number 15, this is Jesus talking, and he says, "Woe to you, scribes and Pharisees, hypocrites," he calls them. He said, "For you paid tithe on the mint and the anise and the cumin." He said, "You pay tithe on spices that you grow to put in your food, but you have neglected the weightier matters of the law, justice, mercy, and faith. These ought you to have done. You should have done these things without leaving the others undone." He wasn't condemning them for following the rule about tithing. He wasn't condemning them about following the law about tithing of their day. But he's saying you're focused so much on that you've left the weightier matters of the law undone. So let's look at my life and let's look at your life, the spiritual aspect of things. What we get in these ruts and we have grown up, especially those that have grown up in church, we've grown up with this pressure that I've got to read my Bible every day. I've got to make a prayer list, and I've got to make sure that I go through that prayer list every day. I've got to make sure that I go to church 2 or 3 times a week. I can't miss that. I've got to make sure that I'm witnessing to people and telling people about Jesus. I've got to serve my church faithfully. I can't drink. I can't smoke. I shouldn't curse. I don't need to run around with people who do those things. I've got to make sure that I know proper doctrine. I got to get my apologetics correct and make sure that I know doctrine. I've got to volunteer for every project that calls itself a Christian project or a project of my church. And then in my spare time, I got to remember to keep smiling a lot, because if I don't smile, I'm going to hurt my witness. And man, we're focused on all these particulars. And I wonder sometimes if that's not what is making so many of us so weary and so miserable. What about if we just focused on the principles, love, patience, and kindness? What about if we focused on those things? And then because we are focused on those things, then we just begin to live our lives in the freedom that comes when our lives are focused not on the particulars, but on the principles of love, patience, and kindness. We say oftentimes at the refuge that the reason we don't focus on the sin in you is because we're trying to get your attention on the Son that's in you, Christ in you, the hope of glory. Where your focus is, where your attention is where your life is going to go. And if I'm focused on the particulars, I'm going to wind up in bondage and in legalism, trying to make sure I'm dotting all the I's and crossing all the T's. But on this Monday morning, as we start a new week, I want to walk in freedom. How about you? I want to walk in freedom. So let's make it a practice beginning today. Get our mind off all of the practical, or not the practical, but get our mind off of all of the particulars and get our mind back on the principles, love, patience, and kindness. And then after we have focused on that, then just do what comes naturally in your life from the outflow and the overflow of walking in love, patience, and kindness. Walk in freedom this week. Hope you have a great day. Praying for you. God bless you. We'll see you tomorrow.